Master your breathing.
Everyone tells you to just calm down and breathe. Take a deep breath. Relax. But nobody actually teaches you how. Here's the thing. Most people breathe like they're running from a bear, even when they're just standing at a podium. Shallow chest breathing, tight shoulders, racing heart. That's not nerves, that's your body gasping for air. The fix is diaphragmatic breathing. Instead of breathing into your chest, you breathe into your belly. Put your hand on your stomach. When you inhale, your hand should push outward. When you exhale, it falls back. That's how singers, actors, and professional speakers control their voice. Why does this matter? Because shallow breathing starves your brain of oxygen. Your voice gets shaky, your thoughts scatter, you forget what you were going to say. But deep belly breathing triggers your parasympathetic nervous system. It tells your body the bear is gone. Your heart rate drops, your voice steadies. Practice this for 5 minutes every morning. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. Do it enough and it becomes automatic. When the pressure hits, your body knows what to do.
Slow down your pace.
Fast talkers think they sound confident. They don't. They sound nervous. When you rush through sentences, your brain is sprinting ahead of your mouth. Words blur together. Consonants disappear. Your listener's brain can't keep up, so it stops trying. They nod politely while mentally planning dinner. Here's what actually happens when you speak too fast. You skip over your best points. You swallow the punchlines. You finish before anyone absorbs what you said. Speed doesn't communicate urgency. It communicates anxiety. The solution isn't speaking in slow motion. It's finding your natural rhythm. Record yourself talking about something you know well. Play it back. You'll hear exactly where you rush and where you breathe. Most people are shocked at how fast they actually speak versus how fast they think they speak. Slow speech creates power. Think about any leader you respect. They don't race through sentences. They let words land. They pause before important points. They trust silence instead of filling it with speed. Start by deliberately pausing after every sentence when you practice. It feels painfully slow at first. That's how you know you're doing it right.
Eliminate filler words.
Basically. These aren't just annoying, they're trust destroyers. Every filler word signals that your brain is buffering, that you're not quite sure what comes next, that maybe you don't fully know what you're talking about. The problem is, you probably don't even hear yourself doing it. Filler words are invisible to the speaker, but painfully obvious to the listener. Record a conversation with a friend. Count your fillers. Most people are horrified. Here's the secret. Fillers exist because silence feels uncomfortable. You're terrified of the gap between thoughts, so you fill it with noise. But that gap isn't a problem. It's an opportunity. Replace every filler with a pause. Instead of, I think, we should, consider this option, you say, I think, pause, we should consider this option. Same content, completely different impact. The pause makes you sound thoughtful, deliberate, in control. It gives your listener time to process. It gives you time to think. Practice by recording yourself answering simple questions. Every time you catch a filler, stop and restart. It's tedious. It works.
Practice active listening.
Want to become a better speaker? Stop talking so much. Sounds backwards. It's not. The best communicators are obsessed with listening. They notice what resonates with people. They pick up on which words land and which ones miss. They study how conversations actually flow instead of just waiting for their turn to speak. Most people listen just enough to formulate their response. They're not absorbing, they're loading ammunition. You can feel it when someone does this to you. Their eyes glaze slightly, they interrupt, they pivot to their own point before you finished yours. Active listening means you're fully present. You're not planning what to say next. You're genuinely curious about what the other person means. You ask follow-up questions. You reference what they said earlier. You make them feel heard. Here's the payoff. When you truly listen, you learn what matters to your audience. You discover their concerns, their vocabulary, their priorities. Then when you speak, you're not guessing. You're responding to real information. Listening is research. The best speakers do their homework by paying attention to everyone else first.
Record and review yourself.
You don't actually know how you sound. Nobody does. There's a reason hearing your recorded voice feels weird. The voice in your head resonates through your skull bones. It's deeper and richer than what other people hear. When you speak, you're getting a filtered version of reality. Same with your habits. You don't notice the nervous laugh after every sentence. You don't see yourself looking at the ceiling when you think. You don't catch the way you trail off at the end of important points. Recording yourself is brutal. It's also the fastest way to improve. Start simple. Record a voice memo explaining your job to someone who's never heard of it. Play it back. Listen for pace, filler words, clarity, energy. Now record it again. Compare them. Video is even more revealing. You'll see posture problems, weird hand movements, lack of eye contact with the camera. All the things you're completely blind to in the moment become obvious on replay. Do this weekly. Pick one thing to fix each time. In 3 months, you'll sound like a different person.
Expand your vocabulary.
Limited vocabulary isn't just about sounding smart. It's about precision. When you only have a few words to describe something, you end up using the same ones over and over. Everything is good or bad or interesting. Your ideas blur together because you're painting with 3 colors. A bigger vocabulary lets you say exactly what you mean. Instead of "that was a good presentation," you can say it was compelling, persuasive, thorough, or energetic. Each word creates a different picture. Each word is more useful to the person who hears it. But vocabulary expansion isn't about memorizing SAT words. It's about absorption. Read widely. Listen to podcasts by articulate people. When you encounter a word you don't know, look it up and try to use it within 24 hours. The key is natural incorporation. Don't force big words into sentences where simple ones work better. That sounds pretentious. The goal is having more options, not showing off. Pay attention to how experts in any field describe their work. They have specific language for specific things. That precision is power. Borrow it.
Tell stories, not statements.
Facts inform. Stories transform. You can tell someone that exercise improves mental health. Or you can tell them about the time you started running after a brutal breakup and slowly felt your brain come back online. Both are true. One is forgettable. One sticks forever. Humans are wired for narrative. We've been telling stories around fires for thousands of years. Our brains evolved to remember characters, conflict, and resolution. We forget statistics instantly, but remember the person who overcame something for decades. Every point you make can become a story. Instead of preparation is important. Tell the story of the one time you didn't prepare and what happened. Instead of communication matters in relationships, tell the story of the conversation that saved or destroyed one. Structure helps. Good stories have a setup, tension, and payoff. Something was normal. Something changed. Here's what happened next. Keep it tight. Don't wander. The magic is specificity. I was nervous this week. My hands were shaking so hard I spilled coffee on my notes is vivid. Details make stories real. Reality makes stories memorable.
Work on body language.
Your body speaks before your mouth opens. Walk into a room with slumped shoulders and crossed arms, and people have already decided you're closed off. Stand tall with open posture, and they assume you're confident, even if you're terrified inside. The signal arrives before the sound. Eye contact is the biggest one. Look at people when you speak to them. Not staring, not scanning the room. Actually connecting with individuals for a few seconds at a time. It makes people feel seen. It makes you seem trustworthy. Gestures should support your words, not distract from them. Use your hands to emphasize points, not to fidget nervously. If you don't know what to do with your hands, keep them still. Random movement pulls attention away from what you're saying. Posture affects your voice. Slouching compresses your diaphragm. Standing straight lets you breathe properly and project. Your physical position literally changes the sound that comes out. Practice speaking in front of a mirror. It feels ridiculous. It works. You'll catch habits you never knew you had. Then film yourself and watch without sound.
What story does your body tell? Join a speaking group.
Reading about speaking is not the same as speaking. You can study techniques for years and freeze the moment you stand in front of actual humans. Knowledge without practice is useless. Speaking is a physical skill. You have to do it to improve. No amount of theory replaces real reps. Groups like Toastmasters exist everywhere. They provide a safe space to practice where failure doesn't cost you anything. You give short speeches, you get feedback, you evaluate others. The whole thing is designed to build the muscle through repetition. Debate clubs work similarly, so do improv classes. Any environment where you speak regularly in front of others and receive honest feedback will accelerate your growth faster than any book or video ever could. The social accountability matters too. When you commit to showing up every week, you actually practice. When you're on your own, you find excuses. The group keeps you honest and forces consistency. Most people's biggest speaking problem isn't technique, it's exposure. They simply haven't done it enough to feel comfortable. Joining a group solves this directly. Volume creates confidence. Start this week. Read aloud daily. Silent reading and speaking are completely different skills. When you read in your head, you skip words. You skim. You process meaning without pronouncing anything. That's efficient for comprehension but useless for speaking. Your mouth never practices forming the sounds. Reading aloud forces your brain to connect language to physical production. You have to pronounce every syllable. You have to maintain pace. You have to breathe at the right moments. It's a full workout for your speaking muscles. Pick anything: books, articles, scripts, famous speeches. 10 minutes a day. Read it out loud like you're narrating an audiobook. Pay attention to where you stumble. Those are exactly the patterns your mouth needs to practice more. Audiobooks are useful here. Find a speaker you admire and read along with them. Match their pace. Copy their inflection. You're training your voice to follow professional patterns and rhythms. Fluency comes from repetition. The more your mouth practices forming words clearly and smoothly, the less you stumble when you're speaking spontaneously. Reading aloud is the gym for your voice. Show up daily. Think before you speak. Blurting isn't communication, it's noise. Most people start talking before they know where they're going. The sentence begins and they figure it out along the way. Sometimes it works. Often it doesn't. They ramble, backtrack, contradict themselves, and lose the point entirely. Simple frameworks prevent this. The easiest one is point, reason, example. What's your point? Why is it true? Give an example. 3 parts. Clear structure. Hard to get lost. Works every time. Before you speak, take 1 second to identify your main point. Just 1 second. That tiny pause changes everything. Instead of, well, I think maybe we could, consider, you get, we should delay the launch. Here's why. This doesn't mean scripting every sentence. It means knowing your destination before you start driving. The words can vary. The direction stays clear. You're not memorizing lines, you're establishing direction. Practice this in low-stakes conversations. Before you answer any question, pause. Identify your point. Then speak. It feels slow at first. It sounds confident immediately. The pause isn't weakness. It's control. It's power. Engage in conversations with strangers. Comfort kills growth. You can practice with the same friends forever and never improve because you know how they'll react. There's no uncertainty, no adaptation required. Your speaking skills stay exactly where they are. Strangers force you to adjust. You can't rely on shared context. You have to read people in real time. You have to explain things clearly because they don't already know what you mean. Every conversation is a test of your actual ability. Start small. Talk to the barista. Ask the person next to you in line about something neutral. Initiate conversations you would normally avoid. Each one builds tolerance for the discomfort of connection. The fear of talking to strangers is mostly imaginary. People are generally friendly when approached normally. The worst outcome is a short, awkward interaction that you forget by tomorrow. The benefits compound. You learn to read body language quickly. You develop opening lines that work. You discover what makes people engage versus shut down. You become adaptable instead of dependent on familiar conditions. Speaking is social. Practice in public.